Forbes India and CNBC-TV18 present Exotel, EngageX.
Let's move on to our next session. In today's economy, our customer interaction carries measurable business impact. Every delayed response, every seamless resolution, every personalized engagement, all of it influences your revenue, your reputation, retention, and long-term profitability. And customer experience is no longer operating outside the balance sheet. It is pretty much part of it. It is pretty much shaping it. In fact, PwC's Global CX survey reveals that about 86% of customers are actually willing to pay more for a better experience, often before they even see the product itself. Now, our next session is looking something on those lines and is titled The Experience P&L Panel When Every Conversation Has a Balance Sheet. To lead this conversation, I'd like to invite Mridu back on stage. And joining her on the stage are her panelists. Put your hands together for Sachina Bhatia, co-founder and chief growth officer at Exotel. Abhishek Chakraborty, CEO DTDC. And Divesh Sawhney, chief growth officer at Zepto.
Good evening, everyone. Well, customer experience traditionally was often treated like a soft metric. Important, certainly, but difficult to measure and even more difficult to connect directly to business outcomes. Today, that conversation is rapidly changing, especially in forward-looking enterprises, because customer experience sits squarely at the intersection of growth, profitability, retention, operational efficiency, and trust. CX is no longer just a service function. It is a boardroom priority. It is a balance sheet priority. But the big question that businesses today are grappling with is, how do we prove that experience creates measurable enterprise value? And that's what we are going to unpack with this stellar panel. 3 leaders who are building and measuring customer experience at massive scale across logistics, quick commerce, and AI-led customer engagement. Thank you very much for joining us today, gentlemen. As a warm-up icebreaker, let me ask you, now you're all dealing with huge scale, right? What is the one customer experience KPI or metric that really tells you that you are building loyalty and not just mere transactions? Abhishek?
Great question. And I can give you some fancy numbers and stats. But there's something which I've always realized year on year. We do about 190 million packages a year. And I often tell my team members, and we've been in business for 36 years, and I tell them, don't take it for granted that when March 31st turns to April 1st, that those 190 million packages are guaranteed, because our score starts from zero. I think the businesses that we are in, the greatest metric is if you've got customers that are coming back, if you're retaining, and you're seeing the same people who are trading with you are continuing to trade. I think that always remains as the simplest way, because acquiring new customers can be done in various forms, but retaining and having them come back to you year on year, to me, that's the simplest metric of whether you're connecting with your customers or not.
Fair enough. Divesh?
I think the same answer, right? Like, retention is the heart of any measurement. Now, in our world, we measure it by multiple things. For example, retention rate of a customer, same store growth, frequency increase of a customer. But it boils down to this one thing, is the existing customer, how much can she or he come back and transact with you again? I think that's the North Star metric that all of us follow, saying, if this is growing and this is sustaining, I think we're in a good state.
Sachin?
Yeah, so anything other than retention as a lagging metric would be a wrong answer. But for example, in our space, there are 2 matrices, net retention and gross retention. And we do the stricter one, which is gross retention, which means that even if I have sold new products, whether my old SKU is organically increasing or not. So that's for my business. But for the consumer side, I think the leading indicator that I feel is the most indicative of retention is effort score. I think the patience in the economy, the patience in the generations is reducing. And if you can reduce the overall effort of making the transaction or doing whatever, I think that will be a very, very good indicator of lagging indicator, which is retention.
Right. And all of these signals that you receive from customer behavior eventually, point you towards answering that big question of when does customer experience really become a growth engine? So, Divesh, if I can come to you first. Now, Zepto scaled from roughly 500,000 daily orders to 1.7 million in just about 5 quarters. Now, at that speed, how do you maintain the quality of customer interactions? And if you had to pick one thing that really compounds trust and loyalty at scale, what would that be for you?
Yeah, I think the big thing is I obviously won't comment on the numbers, but in terms of scale, we're way beyond the numbers you quoted. But irrespective of that, the fundamentals of quick commerce is 4 factors: speed, pricing, quality, and assortment, right? From a customer lens, these 4 factors matter to you. And if you can repeatedly deliver on all the 4 parameters together, you will create a positive flywheel for yourself where the customers come again and again. So as I said, the measurement of can the customer transact again? But the reality before that is, are we delivering on all of these 4 parameters consistently for a customer? For example, is my ETA breaching 15 minutes, 12 minutes, so on and so forth? Is my pricing competitive with respect to multiple players in the market? Is any search happening on my platform in which I'm not able to provide an assortment, or I'm going out of stock, right? These are the lead indicators where your customer parameters can transact, and you can identify way before a churn and way before a customer nuance, before even the customer interacts with you. So I think for us, all the measurement of these factors while the customer is on the app or is not coming on the app helps us define that sustainable flywheel. And the best part is you can correct yourself immediately based on how each of these fare for a customer.
And Sachin, coming to Exotel now, Exotel returned to profitability in 2025 after a loss-making FY24. And interestingly, you did this not by pulling back on investment, but actually embedding AI deeper into customer journeys. What were some of the insights you found during that time, about the relationship between customer experiences and sustained profitability? Any data, any insights that you can share from that?
So I think there was a tailwind that really helped us. I think voice AI in a market like India was taking off like crazy, and Exotel was the largest infrastructure provider for voice, which had API support. So that, of course, helped us. But I think we have been in existence now as a combined company. I think we started engaging with customer experience teams in 2006. Like Motilal Oswal, I saw the name here. They have been a customer since 2008. And one of the modes that we had was distribution. So when the technology became ripe that this could be really used in some of the customer engagement use cases, Exotel was one of the choices that customers had that, can you guys also do this? And I think we responded fast to that. So today, both for voice for AI, we have about 45% market share in India. And then our own AI products in the customer engagement space are also growing at triple digit things. So both those things helped. Returning to profitability, I think me and Shivku both are dhanda people. We understand that at least in B2B, you are here to make profits, and at a unit level, it has to be profitable for the company. So I think we just returned to our sanity in 25 and started running business that way. But there were tailwinds that were helping us.
And may that sanity prevail. Abhishek, now DTDC is not just delivering parcels. In some ways, you are also enabling broader commerce in India when it comes to businesses, right? Now, how does this broader economic value that is getting created in the country really translate down into business outcomes for DTDC? And where does CX fit into the role?
Great question. I think given when we started, we were a simple, humble courier company with a very simple mandate: deliver documents from one place to another. Because we've seen so many cycles of growth, the number of segments that we cater to today, right from documents to small packages to FTL, PTL, not just domestic, international as well, not just international in India, in 7 countries that we're physically present. In some ways, our mandate has always been a lot more universal. I know it's not something that we can quote about ourselves, but in some ways, for most Indians, more than an India Post, it's been a DTDC that's been your friendly neighborhood center that you could walk into. I guess when you start your business with that kind of a larger mandate, it means that you are exposed to a lot more customer use cases, a lot more varied kinds of demand, unique stories that you need to solve for, small to medium to large businesses that you cater to. And what that helps us is two things. Number one, the balance of our business is such that because we cater to such a large section of customers, when one segment might be going a downturn, the other one is possibly growing. And that's why we've been able to be sustainable for so long without raising a single rupee of capital since our inception. But why our customer experience is now playing a very important role in that is that as my colleagues here are also talking about, with the change in generation, with the change in expectations, I think even a simple parcel delivery, pickup or any transaction is no longer seen as a classical express business. And I think credit to Divesh and their industry colleagues, they are setting the benchmarks, and I think we take it upon ourselves to ensure that can we, in our own way, when it comes to that last mile, ensure the same quality or better quality of experience that can be delivered. So I guess sustenance now requires you to adapt to this new currency of speed and convenience. And if you can match to that, then of course the business that we build will grow. But the relevance that we have for our consumers is completely dependent on this new way of looking at customer experience.
Right. And executing that at scale is no easy feat, right? And really the profit lies in the execution. Now, Divesh, Zepto has something unique. You have visibility into both customer behavior and fulfillment through your dark store strategy. How does having that full stack visibility into the customer really help you improve customer experience in ways that perhaps traditional retailers or brick and mortar stores just will never be able to do?
I think that's the most crucial part for us to be viable, to be precise. See, think of it this way, right? What's our asset today? Our asset is the inventory that we hold as well as the store and its location, right? How many orders can I get from that store becomes my key metric so that I can sweat out that asset as much as I want. How many inventory turns can I do much faster so that I again sweat out those assets faster? So I think everything, if well integrated, can give you a nuanced approach. For example, everything is extremely hyperlocal. People who are from Bombay will realize a store in Bandra will be slightly different from a store in Virar or Vasai. And a store in Bombay will be slightly different from a store in Ahmedabad. For a very, very clean example, the milk, like which all of us consume, Bombay has a good amount of sale in Amul, right? Whereas Delhi is Mother Dairy, Bangalore is Nandini. Is the same SKU, the brands change, right? Think of it, this complexity at multiple thousands of SKUs, their allocation at a pin code level, having the integration from supply as well as the integration to the brands, to the warehouse, to the dark store, and customers' perception of that store gives you a good outcome to ensure we increase our throughput. In fact, so-and-so, and there are articles about us where we've integrated our F&B supply chain. I think we were talking to this previous conversation, where now we started interacting directly with farmers to source fresh vegetables and fruits for us so that we can supply better, at a better quality, at a better price.
So that's a lot of innovation happening at the back end. Abhishek, now DTDC's customer experience is delivered also not just through the company, but through about 16,000 channel partners of yours. Now, how do you maintain accountability and consistency in the quality of service at that scale and link it back to business outcomes?
See, I think when you choose the model that we did way back when, and I don't think there are too many companies in the world that do it that way, it was very important to us, and we realized that very early on, that if we have to maintain that quality, the processes need to be very strong. The playbooks that we give to each of our partners need to be very accurate for providing that experience. And maybe even till 10 years ago, you could have gotten away with a few chinks in the armor, but I think post-COVID, the expectations of consumers, the way that it is, every aspect of that experience needs to be tailored. And therefore, we ensure that while it might be a partner who might be providing either a sale or a service to you, the rest of the entire backend, the experience, the touch point, every contact that the consumer needs to make once they've tendered their parcels to us, I think all of that is taken care by us. Not only in terms of the actual systems that we build, but also in the customer experience capabilities that we built in. And we ensure that as a consumer, if you've given a parcel DTDC, it doesn't matter whether it's a partner or the company directly, you have to get the same kind of experience. In terms of business outcomes, obviously, the wide breadth of consumers that we touch, it also means the kind of issues, the challenges. Because imagine in a business like we're in, if you have a 1% error rate, it still means a few good thousands of shipments that you're going to be dealing with concerns. And I think over the years, our investments on technology, how we've doubled down on it, especially now we are investing a lot on AI. We've got our own virtual assistant. We call it Diva, DTDC Interactive Virtual Assistant. In the last 13 months, it's played a fantastic role. So today, annually, 800,000 queries from consumers are handled by the virtual assistant. 79% of those queries don't even need a human being to answer anymore. Now, what the business outcome there is, I need lesser number of people to keep manning my contact centers or the resolution teams. But more importantly, I can invest a lot more on the quality of the people that I have. And I think our responses with AI integrated is becoming more empathetic, more direct, and we are getting faster at doing it. So I think that is a direct metric which ensures, we spend lesser to serve customers, but more importantly, the retention. And the happiness quotient for our customers is significantly going up.
Fantastic. Well, let's move from channel partners to delivery partners then. In case of Zepto, the delivery partner is a huge part of the customer experience, right? So, what is it that you do at the back end to ensure that, the delivery partner is happy working at Zepto and delivering happiness with every order and millions of them? So, where do the delivery partners sit in your CX strategy, and what impact does improving their working conditions really directly have on your business outcomes? Any measurable data in that regard?
I think, as he was mentioning as well, right? I think the last delivery point is the most important point for a customer as well. The way you experience how the product gets delivered to you creates a lot of impact. And to ensure that happens, there's a sustainable thing that we keep on doing with the delivery partners. There are separate channels for escalations. There are separate channels for structures. We're working along with the government for regulations as well. We're working on multiple aspects to make their lives better too, right? And there also an automation and systemic things play a significant role to it. I think the team that builds it, obviously it's not mine, it's Vikas's team that builds the entire thing. I think they're doing a credible job in terms of ensuring that this ecosystem grows as we're growing as well. Since we grow exponentially with orders, we need exponential partners to do that. And handling that at scale has its own complexity, with the team deals very early well.
Right. All right, then. Let's move on then to actually find out how do you measure experience in a way that the boardroom respects it, right? Sachin, now NPS alone probably just doesn't cut it in the boardroom anymore. In the AI age, companies need smarter, more outcome-linked, more customer-connected interactions, metrics. You talked about retention, growth. We're talking about risk as well. Now, given Exotel's visibility across thousands of enterprises, what are some of the most meaningful CX KPIs that boardrooms are today looking at, and have these changed over the last, say, 5 to 7 years?
So before I come to KPIs, let me tell you two stories. So imagine that you just landed in Mumbai and your luggage has not reached, and you have gone to the counter, you have spoken to the contact center, and then you receive an NPS form. How would you rate us between 1 to 10? This happens with all of us. Now, I compare it to, let's say I am having a good discussion with my life partner, and she has been speaking, and then I ask her that, how are you feeling? Right? She has been speaking. So she'll say, were you not listening? So I think one of the issues with NPS today is, first of all, the response rates are like, how many of you have filled a NPS form in the last 30 days? Right? So that's the reality of NPS, right? You fill it when either you're really, really pissed or you have a lot of time at hand. On the contrary, how many times would a customer have spoken to one touch point in the last 6 months, 1 year? That number would at least be 70% of the times, 80% of the times. So I think with one of the things that we are evangelizing is that one place where nobody's thinking about AI is, of course, everybody's saying it can reduce effort, but I think the amount of analytics and insights that can come from just listening to those conversations and analyzing them from different cuts is, I think, mind-boggling. So for a boardroom today to understand that what are the top 4 problems, 3 problems last week, last month my customer faced, and can we just go and fix them? I think is a very, very measurable. People spend research, NPS, mystery surveys just to identify what are the problems. I'm saying the customers are already telling you what are the problems. You just need to listen to those problems. So imagine as a CEO, if you could listen to every conversation that your customer is doing. That's gold dust, right? That's possible today. So how would organizations use it? I think that is left to the organization then. Do you want to reduce cost to serve? Do you want to improve a certain segment? But just that availability of what are my customers saying, I think is a mind-boggling thing that AI brings to the table, and not just at an operational level, but at a strategic level, at the boardrooms, being right front and center, that what are the top problems my customers are facing without asking anyone. Right? I think that's the biggest power in the CX space that I feel, apart from reduction of cost and reduction of effort. I think listening to customers is very, very powerful with AI.
Both of your companies doing that already?
Yes, I think as he rightly mentioned, it's not about the metric. It's about, are you listening enough? And based is that, are you taking the decisions, the projects, the initiatives? So for us, when we started investing on the data sets, something called sentiment analysis started coming out very clearly. And when you put a score to that, you suddenly see certain issues and matters start bubbling up. And I'll give you a very live example. So we were looking at our inbound deliveries into Gurgaon, and we found that while our quality of service wasn't bad, but there was a lot of pinging that consumers were doing about a certain issue, which was completely oblivious to the top management. And when we went deeper, the simple problem that came up was, anybody here who's been to Gurgaon, the whole of Gurgaon has got only 2 or 3 pin codes. It's a massive area, right? And therefore, unlike everything else that works for the rest of our business, only on the basis of those 1 or 2 pin codes to try to triangulate to an area, to a building, to the changing demographics. There's a village on one side, there's a large corporate tower on another. It was causing huge amounts of confusion. Now, listening to that, when we went deeper and probed, we understood that what consumers said, that if you could make a system which allows you to divide pin codes in Gurgaon into smaller units, which are not married to what the postal system would provide, it would make our life easier. We would be able to reference to that. And that led to a AI machine learning led product. We call it GeoZone Sort Assist. So now we have hexagonal 9 square meter boxes that we make. We cover whole country, can be divided into it. And now our riders no longer need to know the exact address. We triangulate it. We don't even use Google Maps. We effectively use that. And we are sharing that hexa grid with our customers to say, you pick your hexa grid and tell us. We next time don't even need to save your actual long drawn addresses. Now in Gurgaon as a pilot, when we did it, it had huge benefit to us. The success rate went up, the noise went down, and the fact, the repeat again, the retention and the repeat buys from customers for our D2C consumers, that was a huge, huge benefit. So I think listening to consumers, but using data and not just having lots of these surveys or calls or NPS, I think I fully agree with them. That was a differentiator for us.
Fantastic. And in case of Zepto, what has listening to the consumers with AI really led to? Some interesting findings?
See, the good part for us is the customer interacts with us much more than a normal app, right? Think of a grocery app where you open the app every day, every alternate day, every once in 3 days. I think what we capture well is the behavior of the customer on the app, right? So before even you get to the expectation of saying the customer is to come and say something to us, either positive or negative, we would identify that beforehand. Right? The kind of browse patterns, the kind of unfulfilled carts, the kind of out of stock SKUs if you've seen it, the kind of timelines, the kind of surges because of lesser riders in the system. All those factors get captured at a level, and at each store level, these guys are taking actions to ensure that these parameters improve, which basically means that without even the customer speaking, you understand by the app opener of the customer what she or he wants to see, right? And what they're facing right now, and they may not need to speak. Speaking becomes an escalation. in our sense, right? Where the customer had to go such an extent that something went wrong. I think that for us is extremely, how would I put it, far gone in the system before we even could take care of it. So I think for us also there are stages in which we do that, and the way we interact with the customer also there are stages which we do that. So I think they play an important role so that the customer never reaches a chat.
Wonderful. Well, Sachin, in that case, is the demand for AI-led CX infrastructure really increasing now? Is there greater adoption happening across industries? And what is driving the demand? Is it still a cost-cutting measure, or as a chief growth officer, do you see companies vying for growth now with this infrastructure?
Now that we don't have CFOs in the room, we can talk freely. So I see three vectors in which people are thinking about it. One is understanding customer behavior, which is what the first dimension we talked about. There is definitely customer effort reduction, which is not necessarily meaning cost reduction. I'll give you one simple example, right? Every incoming call still has an IVR. And I fail to understand why. Like, why should there be an IVR at all? There should be a voice which asks you, what do you want? And then route you to a human being. Even if you don't want any automation, why should there be a press 1 for sales, press 2 for service, press 1 for English? This all should go away, right? So this is where you're reducing effort. And the third is where you are augmenting a human being or taking some of the repetitive tasks and basically having AI solve it for you. One very interesting area where people are using AI very nicely is what people generally call personalization, which is developing a deep understanding of if Mugdha has come to us, why has she come to us? Like how he was talking about, right? So you had a chat in the afternoon. Now you have called in the evening. Can I just understand that most likely the cause is, and instead of saying, how can I help you? Hey, is your call about the lost card that you reported in the afternoon, right? Those are low-hanging fruits or dimensions in which I'm seeing effort reduction, listening to customers, and then actual automation. Those are the three areas where we are seeing, and depending on who we are talking to and are they public, at what stage are they growing, they talk different things.
All right. Well, since we are pretty much timed out, let's do a quick round and let's keep it brief of looking into the future, looking ahead. Divesh, if you look at the future for Zepto beyond fast deliveries, discounts, what is the real moat of customer experience going to be over the next couple of years?
I think the fundamentals won't change, which means speed, pricing, quality, assortment won't change. I think things will change around all of these 4 parameters, right? The expectation of expanding the range to figure out what more can we deliver quicker, faster, better. How can we ensure that we pass more value to the customer? How can we ensure that we do speed in a much more reasonable, sustainable, and timely fashion, get better on these KRAs? I think the world will move towards that. While the fundamentals don't change, I think the world around will change in terms of the expectations. I think now customer expects a lot more from us, right? That is something that we'll have to cope up to, of saying, how do we keep on coping up with whatever customers say? Customer can search 20 things which are not on the platform. How does we ensure that whatever she or he searches, there is relevant products that are there in the system? How can we ensure that if the customer's expectation to deliver in X minutes, we ensure slightly faster than that? How can we ensure that the pricing that's available, that can be the most competitive pricing and we pass all the benefit to the customer? Which boils down to fundamental is how much can we squeeze our assets better? So therefore, I think the fundamental belief is if we can squeeze our assets better, if we can lower the cost in the way we deliver, if we can get same-store growth faster, higher, better, and improve retention by doing this, I think that's the sustainable way of figuring out all these things.
All right. Abhishek, vision for the future in terms of CX, and what are the investments you are making today to achieve that vision in the next couple of years?
I mean, in terms of investments, we're putting a significant amount of it. Out of this year's about $15 million we're putting on technology. More than 25% of it is on AI, whether generative or machine learning. But I think in terms of future and vision, as the world moves towards a lot of usage of AI for improving the customer experience, I think the real value of AI will not come from cost reduction or removing human beings. It will actually be in terms of, can we make the human beings more empathetic? And our experiments, what we are seeing is that ability to train the AI to help low-end operators learn the kind of empathy that your consumers need. I think that's going to be the future. Because as the world gets more digital, probably empathy is going to be the most difficult thing to find. And if we can get better augmented by machines, I think that will be the turning point for me.
Right, absolutely. Sachin?
So how do you today differentiate bank A from bank B? And think about that question deeply, because all of us have experienced this. So I think in future, everybody will be thinking about service design the way he was talking about. So speed, execution, assortment, in whatever industry. And it is a race where everybody will plateau in each industry, and there will be some maybe minor differentiations. But I think the ultimate differentiation would be, so how do we think about customer service today? We think about humans being the first line of defense. I think that will all go away. The last line of defense would be human beings, and that is the only meaningful differentiation that would remain. All other services would be commoditized, and it's a little utopian, but if there is collective wisdom of the word available to everyone, and everybody has the same intent and access to capital, then what is the final differentiating frontier? So it's that human being who's finally gonna come when things are bad. So whether that error rate is 0.1% or 1% doesn't matter. Matters because that'll decide your market share. But what you do then and what is being said then, do you have high agency individuals taking action, or is it an operating model and a system giving an answer? At that point, if a human being is giving an answer, I think you are safe.
All right. Finally, one word or one phrase answer to this question. What must companies obsess over now when it comes to CX if they truly want to make it a measurable, quantifiable outcome for their businesses? Abhishek.
We've always had to do listening, but listening differently. Not just listening to what is said, listening to the underlying data sets, which will tell you a lot more.
Divesh.
Keep pace with growing expectations.
All right. Sachin?
Make customer do less, reduce the effort.
Okay. Data, listen better, reduce the effort, and what did you say? Sorry?
Keep pace with growing
Keep
customer
pace.
expectations.
All right. Well, that's a lot of thinking for entrepreneurs and businesses to do. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for that very, very engaging conversation. Round of applause for our panelists today. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us.
A photo op and our Green Billion Tree Initiative. The Grow Billion Trees certificate to all our panelists there.
Forbes India and CNBC-TV18 present Exotel, EngageX.